This week on Women Atheists UNLOAD, Misogynoir, the intersection of racism and sexism of Black women. Many of you may not be familiar with the term, but you'll be quite familiar with the idea. I'm your host, Jena Miyu, accompanied by the founder of the Black Nonbelievers, Mandisa Thomas, Esther, affectionately known as via her YouTube channel, the Afro Humanist, Bryceronee, host of Secular Soapbox here on PSF, and introducing one of our newest hosts to the hosting seat of Women Atheists UNLOAD, Cynthia McDonald. Let's get it. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all you heathens out there. Thank you for tuning in for another week of Women Atheists UNLOAD. I'm your host, Jena Miyu. It's been a while, so, I'm a little rusty. But so glad we have all of you here tuning in for this very, very important, very, very crucial topic, misogynoir. And as I explained in that little intro, it is the intersection of sexism and racism against Black women, I should say. And the uniqueness of this type of misogyny against Black women is something that is not often spoken about. It's not often recognized or specifically termed. And this unique term, will pretty much go over a little history of that in a moment. But it's something that's fairly new within our community. I know, especially within the atheist community, it's not really much of a discussion. But we're going to have that discussion and hopefully many more beyond this. And I am so grateful to be welcomed by a awesome panel of hosts with me. So let me not waste any more time and bring them on in. I would like to introduce, everyone is very, very much familiar with the well-accomplished founder and president of the Black Nonbelievers, Mandisa Thomas. Welcome,
Hi,
Mandisa.
Jena. How are you? Thank you for having me for this talk today.
No, thank you for being here. I was excited because this was a topic we were bound to happen about a month ago. And I was like, you know what? I messed up. I didn't invite certain people. I need a Mandisa. I need my Esthers. I need my Cynthias. I need these folks. So I'm grateful that you're here and you have, the time out of your busy schedule because you do the most. But I appreciate you always. Next up, we do have the Afro Humanist, Esther. Hello, my dear.
Hello, Jena and Mandisa.
Our beautiful favorite across the pond. How are you doing today?
I am good, thank you.
Good. I'm glad.
Really good. I'm so glad to be here.
Awesome. And of course, we do have our wonderful Cynthia McDonald.
Oh, there I am. Hey, everybody. How you guys doing?
Hey.
There she is. How are you, darling?
Yeah.
I fail to not miss myself when I have to transition into like an English accent every time I greet you. I don't know why. It just automatically happens.
I think that's something that we established a while ago doing the nonprofits. Like all of a sudden we just will bust out into English accents. So sorry, Esther, if that happens to. We're not making fun or trying to be,
We're silly.
Yeah, we really basically
we just silly.
We just are.
Okay, lovely.
And ladies, of course, we have another welcomed host with us today, just to have that male representation, because even though this is a woman channel, we do express topics and have conversations for everyone, and it would be healthy for us to have that representation on the other side, just to engage and, just to talk it out. So, but without further ado, of course, a host here on the PSF, one of the shows, Secular Soapbox, Bryceronee. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, now that I have welcomed you all here, just to go ahead and prime us into a very healthy discussion. And I know all of you are talkers, so I'm not worried at all. I'm actually in the relaxed seat today. So I'm good. But just to go ahead and get us all primed up and ready to have this talk, I want to show a very short 3.5-minute video, just so that not only us, but our audience can get a little more detail about our topic. So.
In 2010, Black feminist Moya Bailey coined the term misogynoir, specifically to address the violence experienced by Black women at the intersection of their race and gender. Misogynoir explains how Black women are not afforded the same protections associated with the patronizing perception of innocence, femininity, and fragility allowed to white women. Blackness masculinizes and adultifies Black women, turning them into perceived threats and reducing us to our sexual organs. Misogynoir also explains how Black men create stigmas about the instability of the feminine mindscape that constantly delegitimizes the beliefs and concerns of Black women, reducing us to extras, diversions, and unstable petty entities. Our womanhood is weaponized to disable our input on the politics of Blackness and excuse their violence against us. Black women are beaten down by both whiteness and maleness through the images of the irrational angry Black woman, the overly fertile welfare queen, the promiscuous Jezebel, or the asexual maternal mammy. Black men demand unyielding loyalty and understanding from Black women, urging them to hold Black men down and wait. Because of this rhetoric of unflinching loyalty, Black women have been abused, beaten, killed, raped, and sexually assaulted. And too many don't say anything because they don't want to get a Black man in trouble, and are unfairly programmed to think of the greater good of the Black community, even at the expense of our lives. In return, Black men subject us to undue amounts of violence. Let's share some stats. Black women experience significantly higher rates of psychological abuse, including humiliation, insults, name-calling, and coercive control, than do women overall. 40 to 60% of Black women will be sexually assaulted by the age of 18. Black women are 2.5 times more likely to be murdered by their own men than their white counterparts. And for every 15 times a Black woman is raped, only one will report. On top of this, white women historically and contemporarily have incited, endorsed, precipitated, or erased incidents of violence against us rather than fostering sisterhood. Starting with white women being 40% of slave owners, and so vicious to Black women, states like Virginia implemented laws to keep white women from beating us to death. White women often being the main precipitators of violence in Black women's forced domestic servitude while in the chain gang. White women spearheading the implementation of Tinyon laws, and evolving into white women erasing Black women from the women's liberation movement, though we are 6 times more likely to be suspended or expelled, and 6 times more likely to be trapped in the sex abuse to prison pipeline than white women and girls. White women stealing Tarana Burke's #MeToo, meant to bring light to violence against Black women in the South, and silencing the original benefactors. Brianna Brochu bragging about poisoning and assaulting her Black Jamaican college roommate for months. White women have continued to actively participate in violence against Black women. Whether at the hands of our own race and gender or another, there's an epidemic of violence specific to us, and that is misogynoir.
There you have it. I appreciate it. Something I found off YouTube. I Googled sometime a couple days ago. So no credit to any of us here. That wasn't me voicing it. No artwork from us. It's another person that uploaded to their own personal channel. So kudos to them for making that video because it was spot on. And it just, I liked it so much because it not only offered a clear, basic, description of what misogynoir is, but it provided some statistics too, which is helpful for those that appreciate that. So let me start it off this way and kind of just go around I'll say around the host here and just pose just a basic general question of whether you have identified, and Bryce, I have a slightly different question for you. So I'll allow the ladies answer this first, starting with Mandisa. If you have had any experience personally or have seen examples of misogynoir.
Oh my gosh. I think we could probably go the entire show with the amount of misogynoir I have experienced since starting my organization. But I will try to sum it down. I will try to, take it down to a few minutes. So certainly as a woman in this community and as a Black woman who already represents a demographic that is underrepresented in the secular community in particular, and who is also underrepresented in Black communities, having grown up in the Black conscious community. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, it is the very Black power, very Afrocentric community, and they're communities in all across the United States and across the world. There is this tendency to uplift the plight of Black men, while at the same time, like you said, dismissing and also abusing Black women. And in a community where the male voices are still very dominant and also get more credence, which means they're more likely to get support than women. When I came on the scene, it was like, who is this bitch? And the moment that I stood up for the LGBTQ plus community and that there wasn't going to be any anti-Blackness within our space, and there wasn't going to be any separatism, our organization centers Black voices, but it wasn't going to be at the exclusion of people who were looking to support us, and especially not the LGBTQ community. So once that was made clear, all of a sudden I was a sellout. I wasn't really Black. I was also this fat bitch as well. And who was I to come in and actually be assertive, to the point where I could dictate or call these shots. And it was interesting that if I couldn't be flattered, if I couldn't be called queen, if I couldn't be called if I couldn't be, if my looks or something on my body wasn't to be referred to, then all of a sudden I was just this problem. And so I've had people dedicate podcasts, TV show episodes to try to denigrate me. And this was at this wasn't white people doing it. These were Black men who were doing it, and also other Black women who were doing this. So it wasn't that I was experiencing it from that other side, if you will. It wasn't even other Christians that were doing it at that time. These were fellow Black atheist non-believers. And it really goes to show how deeply ingrained this is in us. And I had to think about my own upbringing, my love for hip hop, and thinking about the terms that we used to say growing up, and how we didn't realize how we were perpetuating it in different, in many ways. And so, as I came into this movement, and people know me, I didn't come up, it wasn't a shock to me, but at the same time, people needed to know where I came from and where I stood, and that no matter what happened, no matter how hard it was, certainly I can take the history and the institutional factors into consideration, while also holding individuals accountable. And that doesn't make me wrong. I'm not wrong for doing that. So I'll call it as I see it, no matter how many people try to come at me.
No, As you should. And that is, I'm not surprised as far as you mentioning, oh, it wasn't just outside Christians trying to, downgrade, oh, another, heathenist group organization trying to, take Christianity down. It's it's not only Black men or skeptics within it, but Black women skeptics within it also, and that's powerful. And that's something I kind of wanted to touch on once we get more into the conversation too, because as much as, and I had to do some kind of introspection on this, because as much as the statistics shows of how much the violence towards Black women has come from Black men and so on and so forth, we as Black women to each other have been, at least in America, maybe Esther, you can give us some other unique perspectives since you are on the other side of the pond from us. There we've had this issue, and we've always had that issue, but I'm gonna stop there. And Esther, please share if any personal experience or anything you've witnessed as far as Black women hate. Just label it that.
Okay, so I haven't had any experiences with atheists, and I think this is the most Black women atheists that I have been on a panel with, because it's not a thing in my culture. I'm originally African and came over to the UK about 20 odd years ago. And so my community, my culture, there's still very religious people. And so I don't get to meet Black atheists or Black women atheists. This is just a beautiful thing to be here right now. And so most of my experiences would have to come from a religious perspective. And one of the reasons why I'm an atheist today is the treatment of women. My own now experiences, using the Bible as the tool to control women. My ex-husband, he was he would take the Bible words very literally. He would say, the Bible says you need to submit to me. It is the duty of the woman. It was my duty to submit, even when he is wrong. And he would say things like, even when I'm wrong, you have to choose your moments, right? You have to wait until I am calm to speak to me, even when he is wrong. And then when we had problems, say we had things that arose during the marriage and we couldn't resolve, we would go to the people at church to go and have conversations with them. It's always my fault. It's always my fault. I'm not praying enough. I'm not fasting enough. There's something I'm not doing right. I'm not being the good wife. I'm not, just everything just seemed to be my fault. When he's at church, we spend 6 hours in church on a Sunday. I'll come home with the kids. He's still at church helping. And I'm thinking, come on, you need to come home. What time will we have to spend time together? Then the pastor starts getting angry that why am I trying to distract him from God's work? He's doing God's work. God's work is number one. Every other thing else is secondary. So him being in, pastor and myself started to get into some real, I have stories for days. I've been called a witch because I dared to challenge the treatment of women and myself, what else? It's just so many instances that I can begin to name. And the whole thing of the LGBT in my community, it is not a thing. And so that's why I actively speak about this issue. I know people don't like me, think, oh, you must be a lesbian, hence why you're speaking about this. Otherwise, there's nothing else. You must be a lesbian. And because I've had my hair My hairstyle. Oh, she's definitely a lesbian. She's got the lesbian hairstyle. You know, here in the UK, they're quite liberal. They're quite. I can be an open atheist, but then there's still racism. It's still here and there, and surprisingly enough, it's in the church. In the church, racism, right? Because the church I was in before I came away, they had to have when George Floyd died, they had to do a race talk because everyone just started to speak up then, trying to address the issues of racism in the church. But unfortunately, I left church not long after that. I've had, at work, I've had a woman say to me, I went to go give her medicines, and she looks at me and says, "Oh, welcome, my slave." I said, "Hello, lady.
Whew.
I'm not your slave." "Oh, I thought you were coming to help me." I've come to help. I have not come. I am not your slave. And then I reported it to management, and management, they said, "Oh, she's old. There's really not a lot." Some old people are
Like that's
stuck
an
in their way.
excuse.
Some old people are stuck in their ways, and it's really hard for us to. They did nothing about it. So yeah.
Oh, honey. With I know. Everyone is breathing out. Yeah. I appreciate you sharing all of that, Esther, because, and I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm surprised how the George Floyd murder reached so far, and to the extent that your church had to have a race talk.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay. Well,
I think then after George Floyd died, the racism, the hidden racism, just brought its ugly head up.
yeah.
Everyone now had a voice. The people who had been afraid to talk, that was their opportunity to say something. It was good for the church. It was good that they could have that conversation. But I think I don't think they did that conversation justice,
Yeah.
because
How were they having that conversation?
everything still boiled down to Jesus and God and forgive, and God, let God lead, and let God. When there's racism and you leave it all to God, I think it's like sweeping it under the carpet. It will come back to haunt you at some point. So yeah.
Yeah. And I know with this conversation, of course, we can name a lot of things in popular culture, which identifies with, Black women, misogyny and things like that. And also it does obviously dive into religion. There's a heavy, heavy weight there. But we'll jump back into that surely. But Cynthia, again, same question to you.
You guys, I'm over here stewing.
She's like, man.
There's a lot of triggers that's happening for me right now, from the time that we watched that video to the time that Mandisa, you told your story, to Esther, you told yours. I'm not even gonna lie. And I know for me personally, I personally struggle with this conversation. And the reason why I struggle with it is because, as much as y'all know me, I'm the Black chick that go on people's shows talk about racism all the time, and I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it would do our community a disservice if we don't talk about specifically the divide between Black men and Black women, especially in America. I can't speak specifically at any other country or continent because I was born and raised here. And I have a tendency sometimes to stay away from this particular topic, is because it makes me tired. And the reason it makes me tired is because we, this is a shout out to Bryce, always wanted to steal man a conversation. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it today, Bryce, but we'll see. But it makes me tired because, we always get the what, when we're bringing up particular topics concerning how Black men and women are relating to each other, or even how Black women's position is here in America, we get the whataboutisms, you know.
Girl.
And you know, I know that like me and my lovely partner, we have these conversations a lot. And I would say that even he, as over time, has softened his stances on certain things, especially dating me. But that's what I do. I'm just kidding. Not really. But anyway, but the thing about it is that the reason why this makes me tired is because I personally feel that a lot of these darts and attacks, specifically on Black women, are distractions, because they don't get us to where we can go to as far as trying to find like a more equitable position in America. And I think about even like some of the YouTubers that have made it their bread and butter to treat Black women. And when I use the word treat, I don't necessarily mean that they're giving candy to anybody. When I say treat, I mean that they have a tendency to put Black women on display and to say like, look, this is your problem, Black men, these women right here. And all of them think this way. Every last one of them. They all think this way. They all have a problem with submission to Black men. They all have a problem with, you know, talking to, you know, anybody any kind of way, you know, and because of this, they're their own problem. They're the reason why they're single, that the biggest group in America of single mothers is Black women. They're the problem with them not making enough money. They're the problem with them always, you know, causing any type of issues when it comes to how we're relating to one another in the Black community. You know, I've heard this so many times. And then I have to ask them, and y'all don't get triggered if I use a Kanye West term right now, houseway. Seriously. You know, I mean, I kind of, you know, and going back to the video, I kind of took a little bit of umbrage of like, you know, the imagery of a Black woman carrying a Black man around with a diaper. I felt that was kind of condescending. No, I felt that was very condescending. But at the same time, I get the context behind it. I was told by another activist that I work with that in actuality, we don't really need Black women. And I told them, then how are we more than 2 minutes in?
Oh, honey, way past
Yeah,
it.
okay. How in the fuck do you think that any type of fucking movement actually happened in the United States without Black women?
None.
How? Even if we take it in the religious context, because, you know, my friend is a theist, how do you even think any fucking church is functioning that's Black mostly without women? And let me tell you something. If all Black women decided disappeared, like all of us went to the moon or Mars, or we just joined Stacey Abrams in the Discovery universe. Yeah,
I just learned about that today.
Yeah.
So, good shout out.
Yeah, this did that. And all Black men had was other groups of people in order for them to be able to copulate with and actually have children. All they would do is reproduce more Black women. That's all they would do. So my issue specifically with any of this is that I feel that we are unfair. We get unfair raps all the time. And it's not to say that you don't have like some, you know, Black women that's out here that's saying some really horrible shit. You know, it's not to say that at all. Even when we do it towards each other, like Mandisa talked about. Matter of fact, Mandisa, I watched a video of this white woman who was entitled her video that the Freedom from Religion Foundation is morally bankrupt. And the reason why she said that the Freedom from Religion Foundation is morally bankrupt is because they offered a platform to Mandisa Thomas and Sakivu Hutchinson.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
And I'm sorry.
Ooh.
If any person who should be talking about a lot of these issues, especially when we're talking about the intersectionality between Black atheists and also and even like how we even get like our own hits because we're atheists and we're Black, and we get it sometimes even from outside communities and our own. The people who I'd rather talk about is Mandisa Thomas and Sikibu Hutchinson. Seriously. So, and my thing is that if we have voices that actually have more than a passing fancy with the English language and are able to really articulate these particular issues in a way that they need to be, those are the people who need to be up front. Seriously. And I even heard another person who said that a lot of times that people are not used to Black men leading in these spaces. I'm like, have we not heard about the Black Power movement? Have we not heard about the civil rights movement? The people who were up the front all the time were Black men. What are you talking about? You know, just because you have more Black women who may be more assertive and actually creating platforms and actually talking about these particular issues, it does not mean or even erase that Black men are present and are just as capable as Black women in these spaces. So I feel like a lot of this stuff is like misdirection. I feel like a lot of this stuff is just like, and also I feel like a lot of this stuff is like holdovers of old patriarchy ideas, you know, and especially like when you're talking about like the dynamic between your husband and the church, you know, even if like a lot of us like you know what Pew Research said, like Black atheists in America is like less than like a person like less than 1%, something like that. You know, a lot of us, but like we are overly represented in the Black community, Christian, like almost 80%. A lot of us came from those communities, either a Christian community or another theistical community, like, you know, Islam. And those communities, especially those religions, teach in specifics that women are not on par with men. Women are subservient to men. Women are to pay attention, obey your husbands, ladies. That's what you're supposed to yabba dabba do. Even if they're wrong, it don't matter, because that is what the Lord. This is what the book says, you know. And that's it, you know. So there is no and there is no room for questioning. There's no room for critical thinking. There's no room for skepticism in that at all, you know. And I'm sorry, like if I'm married and my husband's like, let's go ahead and walk across the street in the middle of traffic, I'm not doing it. I'm going to be like, honey, you think you want to rethink that? And I mean, that's an extreme example, but with that particular thinking, that means that we can't question any of the opposite genders' stances on anything at all. And that's not right. And I understand that other people who may take the extreme on the other side and say that Black men ain't this and Black men ain't that and all this other that for, you know, and I don't agree with that either. I don't think it's right. And you know, and I know that, and yes, Black men get a horrible rep, especially in the United States. And a lot of that is a holdovers again of racism and biased thinking and things of that nature that has been codified in the way that how we do business in the United States. But at the same time, it should not be that if this is the case, that Black women have to absorb all of that and put that on our shoulders, and we still have to deal with our own shit as far as like how we're positioned here too. That's not right. Right. And there is definitely a way for us to have these conversations where we could have a meeting of the minds, which I prefer civil discourses, even though I know that I have a tendency to rant. But I do. I do.
And I'm gonna put you on a hold.
I'm holding you. I'm going to hold.
Good.
Okay.
I appreciate you. Love you. Okay.
I was going to say something, if that's okay, but
no, you can say, and then I'm gonna transition and pose a question to Bryce so he can get his 2 cents in. But
yeah, because I will go on. You already know. I'm gonna shut up now.
You're on hold.
So when I came into the community meeting fellow atheists, people invite me on their show. I'll go and have these conversations. As a new atheist, you want to, you just jump head in, without thinking. And so I was made a mod on one of the channels. The Atheism UK have asked me to join on their panels, and they were quite clear why they asked me to join them. The men, they're just white men, and they've been doing this for years, and they want to have some kind of representation of the Black and ethnic minority groups on their platform. They make this clearly known to me, and I see no problem in that. And so I was having a conversation with a fellow atheist. He's a Black man, right? And then he started to pick at these things. Why have they called you on their show? I hope they're not using you as the poster child for, here, look, we've got Black people here. And he says, how come they made you a mod on that show? How come, he started asking questions that were aggravating. I haven't seen any no one so far hasn't been condescending about my my ethnicity. Nobody, but this person was trying to, I'm not sure whether instigate. It turns out they've had issues with some other people in the atheist community, maybe white men. And so I don't know what the idea was, but it seemed to try to raise issues where there were none, right? If I said to him, the day I find out anybody's trying to take advantage, anyone's trying to be condescending, my accent, my the way I look, or just something, I will speak up. But so far so good. I haven't seen, but he was just trying to be instigate. I'm like, no, I don't want us to go down this path of going in and already looking for problems. We're here to try and solve problems. We're here to try and represent. I want to represent, and I'm happy to represent. Don't make me feel like because I came away from that conversation with this person feeling like, oh gosh, maybe people have been trying to take advantage of me. Maybe people are trying to use me as the poster child. Maybe, but I haven't seen these things, and I'm not trying to. I'm not saying I'm blind to them, but the moment I see people trying to do that to me, I will speak up. But so far, so good. I didn't
and
need
that's good.
this person trying to aggravate me to see things that aren't there.
Had he ever
Right.
seen the show?
Had he
ever seen this? Had he ever seen that platform before, or looked at anything on it, or did he just assume that that's what
he
they
said
were
he
doing?
had some kind of dealings with someone on there, and it didn't quite go right. It looks like they're not in good terms anymore. I don't know.
Sounds
So
like a
creating
personal
drama.
problem.
Yeah,
that sounds
personal
I think it
creation of
was
drama.
Yeah.
He had a problem, so you were supposed to have a problem with him as well.
right.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Solidarity.
Right.
And for you to be honest and say, I'm just here because I'm new, and you welcome me to be a mod, and this is me kind of being someone that can be active and blah blah blah. You I'm sure none of us, we don't intentionally seek out opportunities for others to create their own personal dramas, or they think they can create a drama just because we're here. It's just like we're just trying to be people. We just people being people. But you want to create something new. You want to create that drama out of it. And to insinuate that, oh, if I highlight Black atheists, if I highlight Black female atheists, if I highlight anything that is more specific than the overarching word atheist, then I'm intentionally creating a new word, a new group, and I'm purposefully deviating from the overall group when we're all supposed to be all together, but we're not. We're not. And I didn't create that. It's been here. But I digress. Bryce,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna put myself on a hold. I want to propose the same question to you, but in the sense that obviously you are male, or you recognize yourself as
Last
male.
time I checked, yeah.
Good, thank you,
Yes,
sir.
I identify as male. That is correct.
Thank you. But you're also a Black man, and
am.
so based on the statistics of the video, based on what we've shared, I'm sure, or no, I'm not sure. I won't assume if in any examples that you have seen as demonstrations of, Black women hate.
So this is I have an even more interesting perspective than that. I think maybe because I grew up largely, I served in the military. I was in the military for 21 years. So really, most of my life, I came in when I was a kid essentially and then retired. So a lot of my experience is based on, my observations about people there. And because it's a very, racially mixed sort of environment that you're in all the time, both in work, housing, deployments, etc. I have to sort of reach into my brain and maybe divvy out, how much of it was just regular misogyny, because there's plenty of that in the military on its own, and then how much of that subset of misogynoir was there, and so I really have to think about that. There's, I would say, misogyny in general. Yes, I have, because the military is very, at least in the time that I was in, it's changing now, but the demographics, there's obviously many more men. And I came in the 90s, so homophobia, transphobia, racism, all of that was pretty prevalent when I came in. It was, people worked around it, but it was, it was there. And so I've been exposed to a lot of talk that way. When I start thinking about like my childhood growing up in the African American community, I've never witnessed, well, that's not true. I was about to say I've never witnessed violence towards women, but I have. So I'm thinking back and recalling, yes, there was definitely, I was listening to Cynthia when she was talking a little while ago, and actually everyone who spoke before me talked about the comparisons between the struggles that Black men face compared to Black women, and this sort of whataboutism. And I do tend to hear that a lot. A lot of times you'll hear, when Black women talk about the things that they face, the violence, the misogyny, if they're speaking to a Black man, oftentimes what you tend to hear is, well, let me tell you what I have to go through as a Black man. And I'm thinking, it's not a fucking competition, like the point of somebody mentioning that Black women have unique specific struggles that they face isn't to one up Black men. That seems to be the reaction that a lot of Black men have. It's almost like it's a defense. Like they think that, like they want permission to continue being a part of the Black woman's struggle. That's the only reason I can think of why so many people go straight to, well, let me talk about the Black man. Cynthia already mentioned Black men already face obvious struggles. We talked about George Floyd and all of that. So that's a well-known thing. But the video that you played at the beginning, Jena, I don't think that is as well-known. It's almost like hidden, And whenever someone wants to bring it up, and it's usually a Black woman who either has been victimized herself or has, witnessed it, it's always put down and swept under the rug. Like it's not a big problem or it's a lesser problem. And so I think a lot of it comes from religion, as Esther was saying. I think that even if, Mandisa talked about the majority, or I think it was Cynthia who talked about the majority of African Americans come from a religious background, from a Christian background in the United States. Even for the ones that the 2% or however small percent are atheists, are still somehow affected by that, because if you're a Black atheist, your grandmother or grandfather was probably a Black theist who impressed upon you all sorts of, women's job is to do this and men's place is here, and the Bible says, you may not believe the supernatural religious stuff anymore, but growing up with the idea that men were superior to women, that's in the community too, you know. And
Absolutely.
so, and even women, surprisingly, maybe it's not surprising, but I mean, I remember that generation of women in my own family, extended family mostly, who saw that the man was the head of the household, that the man was supposed to make decisions and women were just supposed to follow, because the Bible says, you know, women are to be silent. If they have questions, they should ask their husbands. They should do this, that, and the other. So sexism the Bible is sexist. The Bible is also racist. The idea, you know, racism probably began in a lot of people's minds in the Bible, that starts out by separating the Jews, God's chosen people, and then fuck everybody else, right? So
there's papers written about that, by the way. All right,
yeah.
Continue. Yeah.
So it's a completely racist and sexist document that so many Black people have been acculturated to. So yes, I have witnessed that, and it's difficult to know really how to address it other than by getting more Black men into the conversation. I think about some of my friends. I have close friends, and you know, I have one friend in particular who he doesn't date Black women. He's a Black man, but he doesn't date Black women. He only dates outside of his race. And I asked him about that once, and you know, his answer was, I don't like the attitude that Black women have, and I don't like how I've been treated by Black women in the past when I've tried to date them. So therefore, just to avoid that problem, I'm more into Asian women or this, that, and the other. And I started thinking about that, and you know, that's racist. Like, that's Black people can be racist towards other Black people too. You know, and a lot of them don't think that, but there's no difference between that, in my mind, than a white person saying, I don't invite Black people to my country club because of their attitude, and I've had problems. Like, there's no difference, you know? So I think people really need to check themselves. If you are dependent on a stereotype, or you're prejudging everyone of a particular demographic based on a stereotype, a racial stereotype, that's literally the definition of racism. So there's a problem that a lot of Black men, not all, obviously, but dare I say most, I don't have statistics. This is purely anecdotal, but in my experience, when I listen to the language, the jokes, the, you know, stories that most of my Black male friends, family, extended military service, etc., have talked about, that is prevalent in the Black community, in the African American community.
Yeah.
So I think I answered your question, but
thoroughly. No, okay. I will allow as much talk time as y'all making my job work.
Can I add something here?
Please.
I was just going to talk about the conditioning of young girls and women. So a lot of misogynoir starts from the home. In a lot of places, girls are conditioned to be subservient. They're conditioned to, be down there, and the boys are up there. Just little things like chores. Oh, the girl is supposed to be in the kitchen while the boys out there playing football. I remember growing up, my brothers, they would never be found in the kitchen. No way. They'll be watching television. But myself and my sister, we had to, we were young wives. We were trained as if we were young with the potential to be a wife in the future. And also the boy child is worth more than the girl child, right? You see some people will have 6 daughters, and they're not happy because they haven't got the male child. They haven't got the hair, right? Because the girls, they're going to change their. Now that's another thing about this changing, the woman changing her name to the man's name when they get married. What's the idea behind that? Because for a lot of people, they think, oh, when she gets married, that's it. We've lost the family name. We've lost the family.
That out there. Ownership. Just gonna throw that out there.
We've lost the family thing. It stops with the girl child, Then there's the other topic of bride price. That's something that I still, it's a big problem when it comes to. This is something over in Africa, where when the man pays the bride price, they will charge him so much money because you're taking our daughter. She becomes your property, and the man thinks because he has paid out all this money, he gets to dictate what her life is going to be. He now owns her because money has exchanged hands. I remember being told, since I paid your bride price now, anytime I want sex, you have to give it up.
Yeah, that's called slavery.
Yep.
Yeah. Last time I heard that was too. Esther, I've witnessed that. I witnessed that a whole dowry ceremony.
Oh, have you?
Yeah. I remember years ago when I was in the holiness church, there was a family that came to the church that was from the Congo, and she and they had a daughter who was about to get married to another Congolese young man, and they had like the preliminary dowry ceremony at the church, and then they were going to have like the actual marriage ceremony later. And I remember it was fascinating. Well, first off, they had me on plantain frying duty because I knew how to do that, right? And it's like, let's get the adjacent kind of sort of from the Caribbean descent to go ahead and fry the plantains because she can do that. Nobody else can. So I was like, got you. I will not let them burn. So I made sure that I was on my fried plantain duty. But I thought it was interesting just to see how the fathers of the families were negotiating with one another about what they wanted to have the other father of the guy bring into the marriage, and then they would deem it if it was acceptable. Now I think that one time they quibbled over a whole boat, like a fishing boat. I'm like, y'all know that we in Central Illinois ain't no fish, but that's neither here nor there. But I felt that it kind of bothered me to see this because it was almost like they had to barter and negotiate on a price before the fathers agreed to say, yes, it's okay for her now to marry your son. And now that you've done this, she is his.
Right. And I'm going to jump in here because it really just goes to show on another level how marriage is more of a business than and has been for centuries, as opposed to it being about, love and companionship, which is this romanticized idea. But it's also interesting to note, it's important to note that there were many cultures, even some on the continent of Africa, that were matrilineal at one time, and some may still be, where the bloodline went through the women, that you were not considered valid, or your last name was not considered valid unless it went through the mother. And it's interesting how, during the during the height of the Catholic Church, and how that changed through the Judeo-Christian invasion of many cultures and countries. And it's so, which of course was designed to, of course, demean women and treat us as properties. And it's a shame in that we're talking about, especially, and I'm going to go back to what Bryceronee was saying about black men and what seems like their hatred for black women and how they were treated. And, there is a conversation to be had about our experiences with certain people and how that shapes us. However, it doesn't mean that it's supposed to generalize everyone.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it isn't supposed to, there is a deeper conversation. And that doesn't mean that those particular women aren't responsible for the development of their sons, you know, but when that burden has always fallen on Black women, you know, and you know, not only are we supposed to be subservient, you know, we're supposed to be subservient but and conservative, but also available whenever, you know, whenever you know, we're supposed to be. There's just so much that
Can I
really
add
is put
something
on
to that?
us. Mm-hmm.
Because I forgot to mention earlier, because I made the focus of it being, you know, coming from religion, but I wanted to also be clear that it is, you know, I remember back when I was a kid, the most popular songs on the radio were things like "Baby Got Back" by Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna say the name of the song, but Two Live Crew had a bunch of songs on the
Yeah.
radio.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Dr.
their
Dre,
entire album, Two Live Crew. And don't forget Luke. Don't
Luke,
forget Luke.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Dre, The Chronic. Oh, you know,
Mhm.
all of these musical influences were really popular, and everyone danced and enjoyed and sang along. They're all completely degrading to Black women. You know,
Yes.
I mean, the
But
Baby Got Back. That's a fairly benign. You know, it's in commercials now, and it's been accepted into mainstream. But the joke of the song is she's just so Black. You know,
mm-hmm.
and so the sexualization of Black women. How old is that song? 30 years at least.
Oh my
I
gosh.
mean,
It
Yes, it's
came out
30,
in the
about 30
90s.
years. Yeah. 90, about 92, 93.
Yeah,
yeah,
But you
yeah.
know, what's interesting is that you know, the whole conservative culture of the church is just as bad, if not worse, than let's
Yes.
say a
Yeah.
Two Live Crew or a Sir Mix-a-Lot video. Or, you know, and let's, you know, they want to pretend that they're better.
yeah,
You
because
know,
they will
there's
demonize all of that stuff and say that's horrible, that's disgusting, but
right.
you're just doing it in a different way. You know,
Right.
you're taking the
That
sex
part.
part out of it, but you're still degrading Black women. You know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
so
I want to throw this out there, you know, and guys, please chime in on this. I know this is how I feel, and I have been feeling it even more lately than usual. I feel that Black women in particular, because I feel this burden on me, don't have the same um, grace in order for us to be human.
Oh,
oh
not at
no,
all.
Yeah.
no.
Put your thoughts on that one.
Look at Michelle Obama when she was the first lady.
Oh,
Look at
gosh.
all of the talk
Mm-hmm.
she got from
Mhm.
these Christian conservatives about how she was burying her arms and how undignified that was of a first lady.
Mhm.
And then we get Melania Trump, who was who they love, who was literally
Literally
an
pose
Oh
naked.
yeah,
pose
that was
nude.
that was specifically at the behest of Pity Pat Pat and I Don't Care Robinson from the 700 Club, who looks like he
Correct.
about to croak any moment now. Came
Yeah.
out
I'm
of
surprised she ain't
retirement
gone.
to actually bring up a brand new prediction about the Ukraine and Russia. But dig this, you guys, it has everything to do with Israel.
Yeah, I did a video on that. That was actually one of my shows recently.
Mm.
But
I mean, look at the case of Meghan, who's married to the prince.
Right.
Oh,
Meghan
Meghan
Markle.
You
Yep.
see the way she was treated just because of the color of her skin.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
she
Serena
she's
Williams,
came
white.
in.
classic.
And
Yeah,
she's
she came
white.
in and she shook a lot of you know, a lot of people, their racism came out then. You know,
Mhm.
they vilified her, made her
Mhm.
look like she was a demon and she was all these things, to
Mhm.
the point where her and Harry had to, you know,
Escape. Yeah.
They had to leave the whole. They had to leave the
Imagine
country.
imagine what it would have been if she had been a dark-skinned Black woman with
oh
natural
gosh, it'd
hair.
be
yeah.
worse.
You know?
It would be
Yeah.
worse.
She was
As
about
what?
as Eurocentric looking as you could
Mm-hmm.
possibly
As they
be
Yeah.
for a
come.
Black
Yep.
I remember
woman.
people was like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Where?" But
Yeah, but they still treated her like a Black woman.
yeah,
Of
I
course.
mean, but
I
like
mean,
we see
asking
these things.
questions like, what's the baby going to look like when it is
Yeah,
born?
yeah, I
Come
remember
on.
that. I mean, but we see these instances a lot that, Black women in particular are held to this like crazy standard that, other women or even, other people are not, I remember I even seen, because I'm just like remarking on a lot of different like crazy shit that I have seen like this in social media lately. There was a crazy insinuation that Rihanna, who is pregnant by what's what her baby daddy name?
ASAP Rocky.
Yeah, ASAP Rocky, right, is going to inspire a whole new group of single Black mothers.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And again, housewife. Number one, just because she is pregnant and dresses provocatively. Okay. And I'm like, okay, number one, she's with the father. She's not on her own. Okay. Secondly, there was a bunch of single Black mothers before Rihanna decided to up and have a baby. Okay. So how in the holy hell is her dressing provocatively, who is with the father of her child, going to inspire a whole group of Black women, single mothers? And I'm and when you even dive into that whole narrative concerning Black single mothers, the way it's portrayed versus what it really is are like two different things.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so what? Like, even if that was true, which is not, by the way, for all of the reasons you just gave, but even if that was true, so what? Why is that a problem? Why is being a Black single mother problematic? They act like that's the worst thing in the world you could possibly be.
I think it just extends the stereotype. It just extends the idea that, oh, there's something fishy going on. She didn't marry the guy first. She got knocked up. So they create this whole stupid narrative that
or
they
she
want
ran
to create.
or she ran the guy away. I hear that so many times. Like,
about maybe she just wanted a baby and she didn't want a guy.
Or maybe you don't know what the fuck happened between them, and so
business.
What happened is not that.
Rihanna's she's wealthy. She can look after her baby. She doesn't have to be married to. She's not going to become a burden on the state.
No. Goodness. I failed to share my prospect, and I want to lead this into another conversation which melds everything together. But just to share my experiences, everyone knows I'm a nurse. So nurses, we just view and go through stupid shit all the time, and I'm not too far from that. It's not too. It wasn't rare, I should say, that I, when I used to work in a urology department, I had my own little clinic of patients and things like that. That, maybe every other male patient, and in two instances, female, would say something so belittling, sexist, overly erotic gesture or notion or anything in between that towards me, and I just had to take it because I work here and I need to get paid, and if I'm going to slap you in the face, I'm not about to get fired because of you, because I need a job. It's all too often that, oh, what country are you from? Your skin looks so good. Oh, you look so erotic. I used to have a Black girlfriend like you when I was younger.
Can I touch your hair?
Oh my God, no!
I said this once. Ooh, Esther, you hit a nerve, girl. You hit a nerve. I've said this once too many times before. The only thing I am happy about this whole pandemic thing and everything shutting down and stuff and people not distancing and stuff is the fact that I don't have every other white woman coming up to me and is like, "Oh, you look so beautiful. I love your hair, and put your dirty fingers in it." Really? Do you own me?
No. Get what personal space. Observe it.
The only thing I say, thank you, hallelujah to the COVID. But it's those little notions that you really don't think what you're doing is wrong. Like you have that right to just go up to a person and physically touch them a stranger no less. You don't even know my name. Can you at least ask me my name? That's just
petting
this
you like a
seems
dog. Like,
it
no.
just seems almost as bad as a man intentionally sexually assaulting me, touching me inappropriately, or grasping my hand and caressing it just way too much, which has happened.
Mhm.
Just
And then
because they
getting
feel
mad
like
when
this
you
is
defend
appropriate.
yourself. I mean, like, how
Right.
dare you
Exactly.
defend
Right. How
yourself?
dare
Yeah.
you?
And then
How
and
dare
then
you?
the labels start to come, the angry black woman.
Right.
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
And on the flip side of that, which is leading me to what I want to discuss, is the manner in which we're supposed to just take it
Mm.
and just suck it up and not cry about it. And there was a couple days ago, there was a conversation had in the Discord where it was stemming off a stream. More or less, the conversation bled into male toxic masculinity. And a lot of what the men shared, them being vulnerable and nearly tearful and being open about their experiences as men and struggles and sharing that. And now, being non-religious, having that freedom to share that because it's safe for them. And a lot of, what they were told to how to act like a man, be strong, don't show emotion, things like that. And I'm like, I sat back and I thought to myself, I almost 100% identify with everything that they're sharing because I've been raised to not only be a lady, be God-fearing young woman, all this stuff, but to, depression, mental health, that's the devil. That doesn't exist. You should pray harder. You should toughen up. Don't cry. Be a woman. Be a strong woman. Toughen up. Blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff that both is feminine, but also masculine in the language of not showing those tears, not showing that emotion. And you just have to persevere through all the tough shit over and over and over, no matter what.
And I would
And
say,
yeah.
Jena, maybe the difference between that is you talked about all the similarities, but one difference is men and black men are also taught to be sexist. And that's what women are taught
Right.
not to be, right?
Right.
Men are taught to be sexist. It's not any kind of formal education, but it's emasculating if you're not sexist in the way that all of your bros are sexist. If you're not looking at women's asses and you're not wanting to sexualize them in conversation or in reality, you are gay or you are something other than you're not with it somehow.
And it's so tragic and traumatizing, and I've heard this way too many times in Sunday school.
Yeah.
When that was a thing a couple years back, and my Sunday school teacher, without any shame, over and over again, with his wife present, would say, and I quote, "I can't help but look at another woman. It's her fault that she is walking that way. I can't help it." And didn't joke about it, and everyone just laughed like it's nothing. Like,
Can we
what you women have powers over men, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
can we get on that? Like, because that
yeah.
baffles me. Because okay,
Mhm.
I remember having a conversation with some other folks, males,
Yep.
in the activist community, and we got on that whole provocativity when it comes to how women present themselves in dressing. And I remember,
I'm sorry. This is reminding me of something that happened a few years ago, but I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cynthia.
well, hold that thought because I want you to
Mhm.
come on back. Because like you started laughing, I thought like, okay, yeah, she has an experience, but but I remember like when we start to talk about this whole relating to one another, it and then we even start to speak on Kevin Samuels. um don't fall out, Mandisa. But 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 one of the things that they mentioned, the other person I was talking with, is that black women, the way that they dress and present themselves, they don't want to take accountability for what comes with that. And I'm just like, I'm still, even like all the years that I have been on this earth, I still cannot completely wrap my medulla oblongata around the whole thing about how a woman specifically, or even a Black woman, regardless, dresses, and if they dress provocatively, if they have more cleavage, if they're showing more leg, if they happen to even wear booty shorts or whatever that is, that this is going to cause, this is an invitation for her to be violated, to have violence exacted upon her because of the way, because of what she decided to pull out of her closet that day. I mean, like, and because in that dressing shows, it speaks louder to her as a person, because it shows she's not chaste, or that she is loose in her morality, or any of those things. Like, I don't, but at the same time, for especially, like, my cishet brothers out there, y'all want to see that. You want to see that. I remember, like, because they even started getting on, like, Black women wear weaves. And, like, Black men don't like that. I like, the fuck you don't. And I told a story about when I was, I remember being in my neighborhood. I went to go get something to eat. And I wanted to cross the street, but the street was busy, so I had to wait for the car to stop. And I saw the sister walking down the street. She had a weave all the way down to her butt, and she had on, and her clothing was quite form-fitting. This dude damn near caused a fucking car pile up because he decided to take his head out of looking at the traffic, take it out into the window, turn all the way around, and try to get this woman's attention, including her number. And I'm just like, and the whole time I'm sitting here with my natural fro and no nails on, just being who I am. I'm like, this did not happen to me, but it happened to the sister over there. And like I said, I said, I get my nails done, but I usually just get a manicure. I really don't wear weaves because I don't feel like paying for that. But, because I'm just cheap. But at the same time, like, a lot I see often, like, if women decide to wear this, like, you get the demonization on one side about how they're dressed, and they got on the weave, and they got on the nails, and they got on the lashes, and this, that, and the third. But at the same time, the people who are getting their attention when they're out on the street or wherever they happen to be is the women who have the long hair and have the nose. And I'm like, so then my question to them is like, what the fuck do you want? What do you want?
And we're speaking to a very nature of hypocrisy that has just gone on for ages, where people say one thing and do something else. And sometimes it's very, very blatant and out in the open, and sometimes not so much. It's covert. And, my response to that, when I hear, people say they don't want, black, and I grew up with, natural hair. I have a very, very, my mother was very polarizing. She didn't want me perming my hair. She didn't want me to do anything that looked Eurocentric in some way. But having been a student and learning aspects of not just Black history, but African history, you learn that the ancient Egyptians, before the Europeans came in, pioneered the use of wigs and nails and makeup and enhancements. So it's like, well,
it wasn't even just them, Mandisa.
Right.
Like,
there were other.
The Mali Empire had like a long history of women adding like different, things to their hair to lengthen it, to have elaborate hairstyles, and this, and even like a lot of stuff that you may even see Black women wear today. This is not new.
Right. And it's always, again, and there's this idea that somehow, if, like you said, if a Black woman is, showing parts of her assets, then all of a sudden we're bringing down the entire Black community.
Just you.
That always falls on our shoulders.
Only you. Only you.
Also,
you a whole community because you decided to
we
wear.
Are making all of us look bad.
Just you.
I mean, we are.
It's also a racist.
I got into an argument,
isn't it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, wait.
That's okay.
Bryce, Go ahead, Bryce. Ask your question or say
I
that.
was I was thinking about this conversation with the hair, and it strikes me as also being a racist double standard, because white women do this all the time.
Yep.
White women wear hair extensions. They get perms. They make their hair curly.
Ooh,
they get
remember when Kim
braids.
had
They do
cornrows? Wow,
colors. They've
Yes.
done all
Yes.
that
sorts
was
of
a thing.
things,
Yeah.
and it's
Mm.
okay. But so why is it okay when white women change their natural hair,
Right.
but
Right.
black women have to wear their hair natural, but at the same time, they should have done their hair? Like, it's like, which one should you have done your hair, or should you have worn it
And
natural?
what does that mean?
You know?
Do my hair? What does that
Right.
mean?
I don't know
And
what that
Esther,
means. Yeah.
yeah. Esther, what were we gonna say?
Oh no, I had an argument with a friend of mine. She put up something on Facebook. She said moms should dress their daughters up decently and not allow girls to wear things like bomb shorts and exposing their bodies. Children from a very young age have to be taught that they need to cover up so that they don't so that they don't allow the men to seek after. Oh no, she was trying to say that in order to prevent rape and sexualizing of girls, it falls on mothers to dress their children, youngsters, up properly, so
And
that
if
these children are not raped. And I'm thinking, hang on a second.
Hanging.
At what point are you going to? When does it become a thing that children have to be dressed up to not make men fall? That men can, we're sexualizing these young girls. And so it was a back and forth between me and her. She blocked me afterwards, but I was really upset because
That's
now,
straight out of the church, though.
it is. She is a religious person. In fact, she's a gospel singer. And
Tell her
but
to
I've heard that
listen to
sermon
godless
before.
gospel.
I haven't been in church in a long time, but I've heard that sermon several times.
But it's
church.
but that's so stupid. I was trying to come up with the proper logical fallacy. But it's stupid. And this is the reason why. Most of the time, if you are dressing your children, you don't put booty shorts on your children. You don't. I have a 9-month-old now. The most that I put on him is onesies and sleepers so that his feet don't get cold. Okay, and this is what is available to what you can buy for your children. I mean, like, I don't see a bunch of provocative looking clothing for 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. 6-year-olds, right? Often what ends up happening is that when people get older and they have more developed bodies, they start to dress accordingly the way that they like, even if they happen to be raised where they were dressed more conservatively or whatever the fuck that means, So that in of itself is like the dumbest shit ever in life, because like it's not like you're not sitting up here teaching your children to dress like a streetwalker or whatever. I was told that one time because I had like, different color hair. Like I look like a streetwalker from, my aunt in the South, who's also Catholic, but that's neither here nor there. But like, or even anything that could be equivocated to like sex work or whatever like that. That's not necessarily something that we do generally in society or how we deal with our children. A lot of times they make decisions when they get older, depending on what they want to look like, and they dress accordingly, whether if your parents are cool with it or not, So like this whole thing about you're being taught to be provocative, you're being taught to have loose morals, you're being taught, it's such bullshit. It really is. It's such bullshit. And again, and especially like when a lot of these particular narratives are very much so perpetuated on Black women, because we already have stereotypes that have been passed down by generation from generation to generation, especially with the hypersexuality of Black women and how we're portrayed and how we're talked about and things of that nature within our own communities, and also without that. you know, we then don't necessarily have the wherewithal just to have like a moment where we can just be who we are. We always have to, because like we have to like fend off all the darts, whether if it's within or without, you know, because like I brought this up too, that we're facing multiple fronts here, you know, especially, you know, when we're talking about Black women. We're talking because we have to face like the racism that we are generally are dealing with in the codified country, right? And that's codified in the system of this country, and also in the world, because racist sensibility, even though like the word race actually started here, but racist sensibility was already very much so existed before there was a nation called the United States, right?
And it still exists
And it
outside of the
still
United
exists.
States.
And it still exists. And so we still have, you know, different thought patterns and biases and prejudices that happen to come without the group. That's been all over the world. And then we have to fight that. Plus, we still have to fight a patriarchal mindset when it comes to how, you know, how you are supposed to be Black women, even though I'm not a Black woman, but I'm about to tell you how you're supposed to be, because this is how it's supposed to be. And who are you to balk against the system? So take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so interesting how Black women can both be viewed as overly sexualized and showing too much and no sleeves out, none of this here, no there, but at the same time be treated as, I don't know, for whatever reason, be treated just as badly as far as, you know, us taking the brunt of things. Like we are not looked upon as individuals that are not sensitive, are not
We're
physically
dehumanized.
sensitive.
We are dehumanized.
Heavily dehumanized.
So many
Heavily.
ways. Yeah.
Yes, especially in the medical. But it's you know, we've seen the violence against us. Like it's just so easy to just throw us around, hurt us, beat us, all of that, just because it's like we do not have the capability of the I can't get my words out because it's just it's like that feeling as though, you know, we're seen as easily to get away with harming us sexually as well as applying as much physical pain on us versus any other race or group of people. That's how I have seen it with, you know, shouting out the names of women that have been mistreated and killed by cops and law enforcement, along with our Black male counterparts. It's just as bad.
Yeah.
It's just as bad.
Yeah, it's how somehow we deserved it. We're always criminalized.
Mm-hmm.
We're always, you know, people are conditioned to think the worst of us. That somehow we had to have brought this on ourselves instead of, and you saw that even in the Breonna Taylor murder in Louisville in 2020. Yes. Well, why was she there with that drug dealer? You know, why was she with him? You know, she became criminalized so quickly.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately that happens to a lot of us. When something, or when Black girls go missing or Black women go missing,
or when to make them be taken or missing in the first place,
right? Yeah. Or let's talk about the R. Kelly case where those little fast ass girls, what were they doing?
Yes,
they knew what they were. You know,
really?
they were just eager to get a record deal. You know, we saw a lot of that.
Can we touch on that just a little moment? You know, especially since I am from the city to win, and I'm a little bit more, you know, learned our aura, you know, because Aura's MO has been circulating Chicago for a very long time before a lot of this, you know, before the whole Dream documentary came out. R. Kelly used to go to high schools specifically, even before he started to get a record deal, just when he was locally known. Yeah. He was predatory. He used to go to high schools. He would go to Kenwood High School, that's just in Hyde Park, and meet the girls. He would meet little girls like when they would be at the McDonald's that was down the street over there off of 52nd and Lake Park. Yes, I know exactly where it is. He would go to other Catholic schools, which including my own. because R. Kelly tried to pick up a girl who was in my class, and we were all of 16 years old, and you can't tell me he didn't know that we was in freaking high school because she had on her fucking uniform. So this is not so to sit up here and to say, well, what are these parents are doing, or what are this? Why? No. R. Kelly, even if he had like, and I'm not saying that, you know, they took, because they talked about even in the documentary some of his own, you know, sexual trauma that was rotted on him, and I'm sorry for that. I hate that happened to him, and you know, of course, this could have led to like some other, you know, behaviors that he exhibited, but it's still an accountability portion on him when he's purposely went to these places to pick up underage girls in order for them to do proverbial God knows what, you know. This is something that he chose to do instead of like, because like at that time he still has some money, he probably could have got some help, he could have probably got some therapy, something, but that's not what he did. Okay, so to sit up here and say and just like, well, yeah, R. Kelly did wrong, but what about them girls? They were babies,
youngsters.
They were babies. Can anybody remember what they used to think about when they was in high school?
Hello.
And even if they, I mean, hell, we all, you know, I'm sure there's information, and there's, you know, to show that, I'm sure there's information to show that we start thinking of, you know, we start experiencing desire at early ages. But even still, those young ladies had the right to experience that on their own terms,
without being sexually interrupted by a mature individual before their time. I mean,
right?
You know, like me and my girlfriends used to talk silly about sex all the time when I was in high school. That's because we didn't know what the fuck we were talking about. We didn't really get a better understanding about sex and relationships and all these different things until we became adults. Oftentimes, it really didn't happen until we got into a relationship in the first place. So,
Right.
you know, so and the reason being is because you're still developing. These are still children. They're underage. They're called underage for a reason. Okay,
Right.
so for you to even to try to imbue like any type of adult thinking on these little girls when it comes to what an adult did to them, it's sickening.
It is, and to talk about the religious side of things, when you have a religion whose prophet married a 6-year-old, and you will find the people of this religion will do anything and everything to justify this whole but he didn't have sex with her until she was 9 years old. Or girls back then were more mature than they are now. The sun, because you know it's a sunny country, and so because they had the sun, girls were more mature because they had more sun. You know, I've heard all sorts of things trying to justify.
Oh
And
my
so,
God.
you know,
We have one moment.
can you imagine over in Africa, a 70-year-old will marry a 12-year-old, 13-year-old because his religion says he can. They've got the religious backing. And in Nigeria, for example, there's parts of Nigeria that have the Sharia law. The Sharia law overrides the law of the land. So if they're to be judged, if they were to be taken to court, they can choose to say, I want to be judged under Sharia. So when they do that, their beliefs, the Sharia has to override the law of the land. So you find most of the men get away with marrying 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds because their religion says they can.
Okay. Wow. And allow me to, because I know I can go, and I'm sure Cynthia would agree, I can go hours with this, because this has been, it not only has opened up, you know, eyes here, but I think there's a healthy, you know, discussion with our viewers too. And we are grateful for you all for being here and taking in on this serious discussion. But to wrap it all, what we see in the media as far as portrayal of violence and sexuality and all this stuff against the young Black girls, women, all of that, what progressive moves, what changes, you know, we're in 2022, goodness, can be made. Because a lot of people can argue, oh, but look at Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, they're always showing blah, 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 blah. I'm like,
they're not real people.
That's not it. It's not it. You missed it.
Yeah.
But what can we, I'm more focused on the Tyler Perry shit. I'm more focused on those constant tropes that we have continuously grown up on and continuously see, you know, the Jezebel, the Mammy, all of that. In what ways can we effectively, progressively make those changes and move away from all of that? Is it through ourselves? How can we communicate that?
I think that real conversations like this can make big impacts. You know, I'm a huge, I said it before, I'll say it again, I'm a huge fan of discourse, you know, even if we don't agree, because then each side can at least like kind of lay down what's in their head. And then once it's laid down, then we can pick up each portion of it and examine it to see what holds water and what doesn't, you know, because there's still accountability on both sides of this argument that comes here, you know, whether it be, you know, if we're talking about within the community, and if we are even talking about like in a larger sense of society, right? And but you know, I'm a fan of putting on your own mask before you can put it on someone else's, so that we can all breathe. And we in the Black community, as far as like how, you know, Black men and women relate to each other and how we think about one another, we need to do better. We gotta, because I think that one of the things that's often missing in this conversation, especially on how the demonization comes from Black women, and to even like, and then like Black women end up absorbing the trauma of that and they start to demonize Black men, is that we rarely talk about where any of these ideas come from. I think that somebody mentioned in the chat, you know, about Aristotle. I used to, especially like when I first started to engage in the atheistic community, I was going to do like, I called myself doing a racist test, like, you know, just asking a random white person, who's your favorite philosopher? And if they say Aristotle, I can't fuck with you. But because, and even though like, you know, there's some, you know, things that he has said and philosophies that, you know, I think can definitely be examined and even like, you know, put to good use. But you know, he did have some racist shit that he has said, and you know, and there was a lot of othering in some of the things that he said, and he kind of brought into some of the things that, you know, that kind of was like the poster child for what we know as eugenics. So we have to recognize that a lot of these narratives that have happened to be placed on Black women's shoulders, especially since we're talking about that, are not something that we of ourselves created. Right. You know, so if we can actually start to say like, okay, so where did this come from? And then once we actually figure out where this come from, then we can say, is this true? You know, can we put on our critical thinking skeptic hat for a moment and start to actually examine these particular claims about, you know, provocativeness of Black women or attitudes of Black women or any of this shit that happens to, you know, fall upon our shoulders, to see if like how true or factual it is, and then how can we move from there? Because like this constant stone throwing and all these different things that we got, like it's so unnecessary, and it really keeps us from actually focusing on broader conversations that affect all of our lives. And
right.
And that's kind of just where I am right now.
Any of you input on that?
I mean, I guess I can wrap up by just saying that this is just my perspective. I think pop culture is starting to move in a right direction, in the sense that I think you're starting to see a lot more Black women being portrayed in the media in a more positive light than has been in the past. And in Hollywood, you know, some of the roles that are being opened up, I just wish there was more variety in terms of the way that they looked. I wish they all didn't look like Zendaya and Zoe Kravitz and Zoe Saldana. And, you know, I'd like to see Black women with natural hair and dark skin being
Well, shout out to
portrayed.
Discovery, because you could see that. Yes.
Yeah, that's what, when you mentioned Stacey Abrams being cast in Star Trek, I mean, that's great. I mean, I hope that goes well. I haven't watched that particular show, but that's, you know, Cynthia, Star Trek has always been on the forefront of representing race properly. So that's a step in the right direction, but I feel like we need more of that, and just people need to recognize Black women as normal people that are the same as everyone else, and not all of the tropes that, you know, you mentioned, Jena. So Black women can be presidents, they can be Congress people, they can be directors, they can be pretty much every kind of job, doctors, pilots, etc. They're not just the woman on the cover of Two Live Crew albums, you know. They're not just the Cardi B's or the whatever. They can be that too if they want, but we need to keep in the direction of, you know, representing Black women as they are in reality, and not just the stereotypes of them. And I think that would go a long way into sort of normalizing being a Black woman, you know, in terms of how they're seen and how they're portrayed.
I would like to jump in and say it's very interesting how this argument is not new. You know, how, you know, the imagery of Black women and Black folks in this country is never new. And I'm a child of the 70s. I'll be 46 in September. And like I said, I was raised in the conscious community, which means I've known that there have always been Black women directors, dark Black women actors. You know, there have, unfortunately, though, they, you know, due to either, you know, mainstream, and even for the lack of community support for these artists,
they don't get the roles.
You know, they don't get the credit that they deserve. You know, they do not get the you know, and so you can look back into any point in like literature, you know, entertainment history, and see that there have always been Black content creators and Black folks who have always done these things. But unfortunately, the attention spans of people tend to be very short. You know, our memories tend to be very limited, and it's time that stops being the case. You know, and looking beyond the surface. And unfortunately, as people, that's what tends to happen with a lot of us. And so, you know, if we kind of go back and see how a lot of content creators now and a lot of entertainment now is basically going off of, you know, what has been presented before, but did not get the shine and the recognition that it deserved, then, you know, we do ourselves, you know, we can really, really do ourselves a service by continuing to move it forward. And even by looking back. You know, that's gonna be important as well. Like I said, I'm a history person. You know, I think it's very, very important for us to acknowledge the work that is being done. You know, and that has been.
Esther, how about you?
Just very short words. Be the change you want to see.
Amen.
Word to your mother.
Word to your mother. I'm y'all, in very little, you all covered all of my little points of pretty much this whole discussion, and I'm grateful. And this has been not only exciting for the right reasons, but exciting because, you know, there are many wrongs to this topic. There are many aspects of this that have different, for many of us that are Black women, just so many unique experiences in our own personal lives, or people that we have viewed, or we have seen from others, whether it be close friends, family, media, what have you. I know from Professor Bailey, the person that coined this term, misogynoir, she wanted to strive to be specific in her attempt to address a problem. And at that point in time, she had wanted to address a problem in hip hop music and hip hop videos and how women are portrayed. And that grew into obviously more wider ranges, what we see online or what we see in people's own personal lives and relationships and things like that, workplaces, all over. So it is important to be specific in naming what this is in order to have more discussions about it and consciously make efforts to make changes all around. And there was a quote that she had in a video that she kind of explained what misogynoir was. And she basically says, tapping into Black feminism and interrupting moments in our lives where we see misogynoir showing, it requires the transformation of all of us, that we be different and transform our hatred of Black women, girls, and gender expansive people into respect, resources, and power. Black feminisms can show us how. And so I want to thank this fucking awesome ass panel, first of all, for agreeing to be here, sharing your personals, sharing and expressing your thoughts and your experiences. And I'll just go around and allow all of you to pretty much shill where you are, what's coming up, and we can go ahead and close out. Mandisa, by all means, you go first.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Jena, for having me. And it was a pleasure to be on the panel with Bryce, Cynthia, and Esther. Of course, you can find me anywhere you can find Black Nonbelievers at our website, blacknonbelievers.org. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We just did our show earlier today in the cut. That airs every first and third Saturday of the month.
And it was fabulous, by the way. I just want to put
it was an amazing show. This was great. And, feel free to, to subscribe to be in. And we will be at the American Atheist Convention here in the A in April. So, and we do have a cruise coming up in November that features Jena as one of our speakers. So if you are interested, please do sign up. The information is on our website. So thank you.
Thank you. Esther, please share with us what's coming up, where we can find you.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to be with fellow Black lady atheists and Bryceonee as well. Like I said, this is the most Black women atheists I've been around, and I'm hoping that this is not the last. I have a YouTube channel. I'm only 30 subscribers to hitting 1,000. So, just I try to highlight everything what's wrong with Christianity, religion. I have got some really crazy videos on my channel. The things that people do in the name of God and religion. It's really. I'm just very passionate about just highlighting these things, and there's still a lot more to come. Range of topics, a range of conversations to be had, and please just guys subscribe to my channel. Let's get this 1,000 goal, and yeah, I'll be glad to come back here anytime, every time. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Cynthia, my girl.
My girl. Again, thank you for having this conversation. Thank you for asking me to come on. It's always a pleasure to just be around all y'all, Bryce, Mandisa, Esther, Jena. We all have shared, the virtual space a time or three, and I've always had a great time doing it. You guys are, I love what each of you all do, and I'm a fan of all of you. And I'm just really happy to be here, and I'm really glad that we had a chance to talk about this and like other things. One of the things I just want to say before I start to shill is that when we think about atheist content, it's always mostly about white guys getting up and debating about the existence of God, the existence of Jesus, flat earth, and the like, and anything and everything that you would hear on the atheist experience that people want to, deal with their premises and syllogisms. But one of the things that I love about PSF and also about you all's channels as well is that the conversations are broadening to show that atheists think about a lot of different things, and our atheism is not our worldview; it's just a position that we have taken. We are very much so shaped by our experiences as people, and we have a lot of different things that we are passionate about that we want to speak on that encompasses a wide variety of topics, so that we can reach a wide variety of people. So I just wanted to put that out there. So thank you for being that. As far as like where can you find me, I am on the Nonprofits, which premieres every Sunday on 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I am not on this show, but I will be on the next one. So I kind of just like scatter here and there as far as like, hosting, conducting, and things of that nature. I will. Oh, another thing, I did an interview with the Freedom from Religion Foundation recently. It's on their channel where I talked about Black social and economic justice and especially reparations from an atheistic point of view. And I actually got like a lot of really great feedback. So please go ahead and watch it. I am going to be doing a little, appearances here and there. I believe that I'm supposed to in June. I'll be in Fort Wayne on the Better at Better, which is TART, hosting that particular convention. I will be at the Freedom from Religion Foundation along with Mandisa Thomas in October on a panel and also performing our Godless Gospel music, which I'm super excited about. I've also been invited to come to Houston, Texas to work with the Houston Oasis, and I will be doing a talk there. And now I'm going to have to find some money to come to the cruise in November so I can hear Jena's spiel, because like that's important. and as you all heard, I will also be a host on PSF with Atheists Women Unload, and I'm super excited about that. I do have a channel called Free Thinkers. I'm going to actually start putting more content on that, and it's going to be myself and also my partner Arthur Ward, who is the very first Black atheist that I ever met in my life, and who also has like a couple of degrees of separation from aforementioned Sakibu Hutchinson, because he told me about a whole debate that they had on email for 3 months straight. So that was, and they actually remembered each other when we came to the Women of Color conference in Chicago. That was fun. So yeah,
that's special.
Yeah, it's so if I have a tree, I'm pretty sure all that stuff is in there. So yeah, check me out. There you go.
There you go. And Bryce, for being the male representation on this Women Atheists Unload show, please share where we can find you, what's coming up for you.
Yeah, so you guys, you can find me at Bryceronee is going to be my YouTube channel, my Twitter, my Facebook. Bryceronee on all of those. And usually you can find me weeklies at PSF doing Secular Soapbox with Caleb, where we have strong opinions from a secular perspective, and we love to share them. We tend to have some great guests on there where we deconstruct a lot of the lately it's been a lot of the logical the arguments for God's existence that don't really work, but some people think they work, so we like to break that down to see whether they do or not, and we have a lot of other guests on there. You can also find me on the Bryce is Right, which is a show on the Atheist Network group, and that's Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Secular Soapbox on PSF is Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah. And also, I just wanted to say really quick, I think that, with the big news going on right now, Russia and Ukraine situation. Brittany Griner, who is a former, WNBA player, Black woman, she's held in Russia right now, and they've already, they're trying to use her as a bargaining chip. But I'm thinking of Misogynoir, and she's criticized for her looks. She's gay. They're calling her, making homophobic remarks, and just it reminds me how so many Black women in sports have been, vilified. And I'm just like, we need to do a better job, both in the Black community and, in general, at recognizing the contributions of Black women in sports and entertainment and politics. And, I'm thinking of the Serena Williams and the Simone Biles and like these heroes. There are a lot of heroic Black women that don't really get the recognition and credit and respect that they deserve, and I think that we need to police ourselves and make sure that we're not part of the problem by, body shaming or any of that sort of thing. So I just wanted to leave that in the thoughts of, I came on here as the male representation, and I don't want anyone to think that obviously it's not all Black women, it's not all Black men who do that, but it's enough of them that it's problematic. And, just pay attention to the language you're using, pay attention to the judgment you're having, pay attention to what you really want when you look at Black women. Don't have conflicting beliefs about they should wear their hair natural or they should do their hair, and just we need to look at ourselves, look at the company we're keeping, look at the positions that we actually hold, and ask ourselves, are we being fair to Black women? And so that's the only thing I ask to everybody.
No, I appreciate that, Bryce, and I appreciate especially you being here. I don't feel that you were challenged, but you share, when you share a seat with Cynthia and she can just go off, it's a challenge for everybody, so it's okay.
I already had that built into my psyche when I was coming here. Cynthia commands the floor, but
I know all of you especially had such great things to share, so much we could have heavily dived more into, and hopefully we can always still have this conversation. By all means, it doesn't have to end here. It does not have to end here, and I hope it doesn't. Thank you thank you all viewers, especially for coming each week to Women Atheists Unload. This show is so fucking awesome, and of course, by all means, Cynthia McDonald is one of our new hosts for this show, so you will see her face all the time. So you better get used to it. So, and we love it. We love it. We love her. We love what this channel does to usher having this particular show for women atheists, specifically for women atheists, but to educate everyone. So by all means, be a subscriber if you're not a subscriber. Like this channel, like this show. Follow us on Twitter and our Facebook. All of the links are in the description. Be a patron. Contribute to us so we can continue to grow and develop more content just like this. But by all means, Mandisa Thomas, Esther, Bryce, Cynthia McDonald, thank you so much again, finally, for joining me on this. Viewers, thank you as well. And we will see you all next week.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, maybe you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, seen it right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm. I can feel the sweat inside my palms. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna